All right, YouTube, for those that were wondering where I was yesterday, I was exhausted. Making 4 or 5 videos every single day is fun. There's certainly plenty to cover, but there wasn't any big news anyway. I had a few videos queued up. I'm like, screw it. It's like 80 degrees out. It's raining. It's humid. I don't really want to I don't want to have to make myself decent by putting on a shirt because like 99% of people probably don't want to see me shirtless, so it's all good. Trump support. Here's the first video of the day. It turns out the surge of Trump support, you saw, of course, there's been sort of a death cross there, and now he's slightly overtaken Hillary. I think part of that is due to her untrustworthiness. People within the DNC can call the email scandal not a problem if they want, but ultimately it comes down to this. It is in the minds of some independent voters. Whether or not it's in the minds of Democrats, it doesn't really matter. That's a small proportion now of the population, just as GOP partisans are. Those people are committed to whoever the nominee is. Doesn't matter whether it's Bernie or Hillary. Bernie getting shafted is probably also hurting her some because she appears to be out in left field and not really care. She obviously wants to stack the deck against Sanders. That's not helping. But it turns out that a large proportion of the overall increase in Trump's support after sort of securing the nomination, he no longer has any competitors, is from millennials. It's from people my age. It's from people that are roughly in their like young 20s to mid 30s right now. I'm sort of in the middle of the millennial generation. And that group is heavily now in favor of Trump. Now, remember, Obama won in part in 2008 especially by such a large margin by capitalizing upon first-time or less political, you could say, younger voters. That is, a bunch of teenagers and people in their college age up into their mid to late 20s who poured out in support of him because they wanted to see a return to what they felt was common sense after an admittedly shitty Bush era. They felt like the country's gone haywire. We're voting for the Democrats this time. I think, like many others, I learned my mistake in 2008. Very shortly thereafter, let's face it, before 2012, certainly. They came out in support partially because of that, partially because of the war and Katrina, FEMA response, and so forth, all the scandals under Bush, but also because he was younger, he was more well-spoken, and he seemed more down on their level. That is, to the younger generation, Obama seemed, as opposed to McCain, he seemed to comprehend what they were going through, not even because of his age, but the way he spoke. It's a little bit different now that he's in office. He's more... I don't know exactly how to put it. Something's different about the way he talks to people now. He sounds more like a bored, tired academic now, as opposed to when he was on the campaign trail where he was telling people, college should be more affordable, and these wars are just bringing us down, man, sort of stuff. And it really capitalized upon the going sentiment of most independent voters at the time. You got to realize he didn't get elected just because Democrats and liberals in general supported him. A lot of millions of people that supported him were independents. Another big problem was McCain, of course, seemed like a total war hawk, and people weren't into that. Now, though, the roles are reversed. Hillary Clinton speaks to crowds, including crowds of young people, with a patronizing tone. That is, she's very measured and slow and obviously taking her time, trying to explain things as though it was a group of school children of simple mind that she was talking to. And I am not the only person, I assure you, that is rankled by the way she speaks. It's not because she shouts and gets shrill. I know that's the common thing. People who support Hillary, they'll talk about how Hillary's opponents or her critics, they just call her a shrill old woman because they're sexist. Well, it's not so much that. It's the way she delivers her message makes it sound like she's speaking to a group of middle schoolers that just don't quite get the subject. She speaks to them on a level that is not academically higher up. It's not that her grammar's any better, her manner of speech is any better than her opponents. It's just the way she delivers it. There's an attitude there that is similar, I guess, to how Romney sort of spoke to people. That's the only comparison I can do. Or Kerry. Really, this trifecta of boring candidates. They look boring. Their message is delivered in a boring manner. It doesn't matter, by the way, how intelligent what you have to say is said. It doesn't matter how smart it is, how right it is, how objectively true it is. If you don't have any delivery skills, your message falls flat anyway. Trump, on the other hand, has made a brand almost at this point out of not bothering with a teleprompter. He has some notes now, but that's about all. And sort of winging it. and he gets up on stage and he goes on a tirade and he switches rapidly from one subject to the other, and he repeatedly points to the crowd, and he takes time out to point out a few people at each rally. Oh, I love the hat. Oh, you look like a strong young man. This veteran over here gets it. That's what's endearing people to him. It's not lost on millennials. You've got to understand the millennial generation, being as cued into technology as they are, has a shorter attention span. I know I do. Now, I still have the attention span to watch like a Nova documentary because I'm, 90s kid, sort of, maybe a little bit on the older side. I'm not like 21 anymore or something like that. I think it's more prevalent having a low attention span in those that are in their like late teens, early 20s, than those that are kind of pushing 30 now, sort of the end of the millennial generation. Regardless, though, Trump bounces around from subject to subject, frequently takes time aside to compliment others, laughs about protesters. If anything goes wrong, he laughs that off too and talks about not paying the rent or paying the electric bill or something like that. And for the meme generation that's really driving political campaigns now, that all-encompassing and ever more independent group of voters, millions and millions and millions of people that are more politically aware than young people were perhaps in the last few election cycles, really they're heavily weighted in favor of Trump. And even those that claim not to particularly like Trump, or they say, well, I'm ambivalent, I'm just apolitical, I'm not voting at all, they're for Trump, trust me. The reason why is because he's speaking to them on a normal person's level, not dumbing it down, but saying what he wants to say, not reading constantly off a script, not standing up in front of people looking like the same bored college professor that they just got done listening to in their classes, or the bored high school teacher that they remember from a year or two ago that really vexed them and was so boring they fell asleep in class. That's essentially how people like Kerry, Mitt Romney, and Hillary Clinton operate. And in every case where this happens, the person with a better delivery seems to overcome their opponent. That's another, chalk that up as another major reason why, and I'm not joking here, Trump's ability to deliver messages coherently but at the same time on a more understood level, as opposed to being boring, is going to be one of the things that really causes his numbers to continue to climb. What everybody in mainstream politics doesn't realize, when Nate Silver or Larry Sabato or Krauthammer or Obama himself or any of these other tired sort of political figures, all of which are older, talked about how Trump has screwed himself this time, Trump is certainly done for, Trump is a meme candidate. Being a meme candidate no longer is a deficit for a person. Well, what might have been a deficit 10 years ago is no longer a problem because that's the way in which information is transferred online. Increasingly, it's an infographic plastered on Twitter that gets reshared within an hour. It's viral. Or an or a literal cartoon put on Facebook, or a 10-second YouTube video that just laughs at some politician's mistake or something like that. Things are almost completely instantaneous now. Within a matter of hours, something either has or has not gone viral, generally speaking, and really it weights heavily in favor of Trump. Now again, you don't have to be a Trump supporter, I am not, in order to understand why the fuck he's winning. It's fairly straightforward. It's easy to understand why he's ahead of his opponent. His opponent looks like a bored ancient relic of the 90s fossil who stands up there and delivers her speeches in rallies or in interviews or whatever, the same way somebody like Mondale or Bubba Bill did many, many years ago. Or Bush. Bush did the same thing. Mitt Romney made the same mistake. John Kerry made the same mistake. Obama's the missing link, so to speak, between the old style of campaigning and the new style of campaigning. You saw, occasionally, he dropped the word damn or hell in a speech, and people subconsciously said, whoa, he's more like us. He actually swore up on stage. Trump does it all the time, and he doesn't give a damn. And Obama said, oh yeah, I smoked pot and I inhaled. That was kind of the point, in a thinly veiled attack on the Clintons, by the way, at the time. You got to remember he was running against Hillary at this point. And people said, well, even if they didn't agree with him, they felt he was more personal. He was more hip to the lingo of the younger generation, so to speak. That's the way Hillary would put it. She'd even if she's talking about how cued in she is with the youth, she sounds like she's out of touch with the youth. That's going to be a problem for Hillary Clinton, because what's one major far left Democratic voting bloc? The younger voters, the under 35s, much more heavily in favor of the Dems. But the Democratic Party right now is only being buoyed by those numbers because Sanders happens to be in the race. They're not going to Hillary. Hillary's got like the over 40s. And that's essentially her voting bloc. A lot of the older Democrats don't like the concept of socialism. Now, there aren't quite enough younger voters to actually give Bernie Sanders the nomination, in my estimation. And the problem will be she will go into the convention having more popular votes, which means if they were to take it and give it to Sanders, you'd have a big problem within the DNC. In fact, it wouldn't be democratic, even if he's got more popularity among those that actually know what the fuck they're talking about, except on economics. Therein lies the problem. She will have more popular votes. She will have more delegates. And under the rules of the DNC, superdelegates or not, having had more of the popular vote, she should be the candidate. She's going to lose against Trump almost certainly. Sanders might actually stand a chance. And it scares me to death to think about having a socialist U.S. president. I think it'd be a terrible idea. At the same time, Hillary Clinton would be the status quo. And Donald Trump is, hey, fuck this shit. We're going to become a meme nation now. We're going to advance to the level of meme technology and use memetics against our foes and laser weapons and border walls and stuff like that. It's actually more progressive than Hillary Clinton's platform. It's really funny. But no, Trump is absorbing the younger voters away from the Democratic Party. Not only this, but he's also absorbing the older, the business Democrats that have mostly held on to Hillary. But at the same time, is she going to be able to actually retain enough of them to keep, like Michigan? Michigan's now being listed as a swing state. Michigan shouldn't be, if the Democratic candidate were any good, Michigan should be solid blue by now. It's gone blue for I can't remember how many election cycles, I think 4 or 5. So why would this suddenly become a swing state? Yeah, Hillary Clinton may be able to turn a state like Georgia or Missouri into a swing state, but Trump apparently can turn Michigan and Minnesota and Pennsylvania and all these other areas into swing states, while also retaining a place like Ohio fairly handily already without even really getting started in general election mode. Yeah, he had been segueing into it for a while, but he still had to beat off other people and take a lot of time out of his schedule just to talk to Rinsed Penis and Paul Ryan and John Boehner and all these other goofballs to say, hey, you should get these other people to support me because now I don't have any competitors. And he's still managing to supplant Hillary Clinton, while supposedly, I keep mentioning this, supposedly he's the weakest possible candidate. He's a sexist, bigot, xenophobe warmonger who wants to start a nuclear war, and he's slightly ahead of Hillary Clinton. Think about what that means. All you have to do is think. In terms of the polling average, RCP, don't use a single poll, use an aggregate. Think about that and what it says about Hillary Clinton and her popularity and how she delivers her message. Every time she tries to spice it up by putting out a tweet in Spanish or putting an emoji on there with a happy little face or something, it falls flat and she looks like everyone's geriatric grandma discovering the internet for the first time. That's the problem with Hillary Clinton. Trump doesn't have that problem. Even if he doesn't, I don't even know if he regularly uses the internet. He might not even be the one updating his Twitter feed on a regular basis. But it hardly matters. He has tapped into something within the millennial voting bloc that Hillary Clinton quite clearly hasn't. It's over for her at this point to even try fighting for that voting bloc because there's too much lost time there. She doesn't have enough time left actually to capitalize on those voters. She's got to focus on the business Democrats or all is lost. Unfortunately, right now she's focusing on just trying to beat off Bernie Sanders. She doesn't even have time to swing really right now into general election mode because the way Sanders is capitalizing on people's emotions in the election, he's denying her the capability to do that. So yes, Trump is ahead now vastly with millennial voters, which nobody could have envisioned. Stop with the millennial hate. The baby boomers are the ones clinging to Clinton right now. That's about all. Peace out.